Well, hello, everybody. I'm Dennis Seymour. I appreciate you joining us today for our webinar, The Positive Benefits of Executive Coaching in Conjunction with Annual Assessments and Evaluations for CEOs, Executive Leadership, and Board Members. And thank you for being here. I don't know why I'm having a little trouble here right now. Hold on. Hold on. Let's see. I'm not sure what's happening. Why this is what happened here. There you go. All right, we got it. Sorry about that. Al, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, please? I'm sorry about that.
Sure. Okay, I think we should be all set now. So good afternoon, everybody. And let me just tell you a little bit about my background. I spent a little bit over 31 years with Johnson & Johnson. I was head of HR for many Johnson & Johnson companies. I was also chief learning officer for Johnson & Johnson worldwide. So really responsible for education and learning for the corporation. I've retired and unretired many times, which is interesting. And what I've become over the last 10 years and really enjoyed it is executive coaching. And I do executive coaching and consulting. So I'm going to talk about that as we go along. I've worked with many for-profits, many nonprofits, a lot in healthcare, and every level of the organization. Give you some perspectives on why executive coaching is something to consider and not as expensive as it sounds. So I think that's great. So just the other thing I just want to mention, a lot of experience, as I mentioned, nonprofit. 15 years, I was a board member, I was vice chairman of Atlantic Health. I'm on the board of governors of Union County College. I'm a graduate of Leadership New Jersey, which is a fabulous experience. Any of you in New Jersey, I'll talk to you about that at some time if you'd like to. Board member of Society Training Development. I'm also been on boards, NYU, the online university, and Wharton Executive Education. So really, I hopefully what I do is I bring a perspective, a well-balanced perspective of not only for-profit, but the nonprofit, and what each group can learn from one another. So very nice to be with you. And Dennis is going to talk a little bit about his background, and then I'll get on and talk to you a little bit about coaching. So Dennis?
And I always tease people when I talk about Alan that he worked for the small company that made Tylenol and things like that. So here we go. So for those who don't know me, my background, I spent 25 years in the healthcare field in New York and New Jersey. I ran Holy Hospital as a top administrator, executive vice president. I was a corporate executive for 7 years, running a consulting firm for nonprofits. And then I became president and CEO of Somerset Medical Center and had a wonderful experience of building the organization and building its reputation in the community. I'm a graduate of Rutgers, graduate of Columbia University School of Public Health. I created a lot of leadership programs for nonprofits at Fairleigh Dickinson and even community colleges. And it just says I'm an author of 6 books, but I'm an author of 7 books. So my new book is out. It's called What Every Nonprofit CEO Needs to Know, a guide to achieving your organization's true potential. And really what this is about today with Alan and I is about how to really achieve your organization's potential and the value of coaching and the value of assessment when most people get scared about it. I just want to say one thing about Alan. I've never met anybody as good as Alan. He's amazing, talented. He's amazing, talented, very humble man here, but it's incredible to have him on my team. We've known each other for about 28 years, things like that. Yeah. I certainly want to thank our sponsors, certainly Sachs LLC, the Nonprofit Times, Pergamentus. These are big CPA firms. Metro MSP is a cybersecurity company, which are actually amazing. They've been working with us since the beginning. Studio 54 Print is in Parsippany, and their work is outstanding. And Charlie Production is our corporate video photographer that does a lot of work. So those we're happy that they agreed to be a sponsor, and the Non-Public Times is the leading publication if you're not familiar with it. What Al and I are going to talk about just said really is just the benefits of executive coaching, and the annual assessments and evaluations, why they're valuable. And I'm going to just turn it over to my friend Alan here and let him take it from here.
So, for some of you that have had experience with executive coaching and some have not, let me just give you kind of a definition. It's really a process where a person is experienced and knowledgeable of coaching, but also knowledge of the business and atmosphere you're in, works with a leader, and its really objective is to enhance the effectiveness, achieve organizational goals, and really make sure they unlock their full potential. And it's really a gratifying process, I think, for both people concerned. I think it's very often a life changing experience for people. That's one of the things I recognize with people is I get calls from people years later that I've coached, and they talk to me about how this has been a defining moment of their careers, which is very exciting, and sometimes even in their total lives. So it's great. So let's go to the next one. Why it works, that's important, and why it's different than learning. And learning and education has a tremendous a role in person's development. But one-on-one coaching is really tailored to the individual. And use of an experienced, results-oriented coach really is valuable. And what I have here, not therapy, is sometimes people who get into this field try to treat it like therapy, and they try to be amateur therapists. And this is not what it's about. It's really about practical application and developing action plans. Action plans that are used based on using assessment tools. So some of you may be familiar with use of 360s, and 360s are a valuable tool in executive compensation because what you really glean out of it is the 2 or 3 important things that a person wants to either improve a strength or make a weakness into a strength, and how those affect in person's individual performance and their potential. So it's really valuable, and it's a really return on investment because it's really about how do we make sure that we improve the individual's capabilities.
And now, if I could just jump in a little bit as a former CEO of 2 medicals and a CEO of a company, the value of coaching is amazing because as a CEO, sometimes, believe it or not, it's a pretty lonely job. And when someone can just give you a little helping hand, as a coach, whether it's a board issue or whatever it is, marketing issue, it's so valuable, and we tend to scare away from it. But I can tell you as a CEO and a former CEO, it's a really wonderful experience to have someone that you know you can go to.
Thanks, Dennis. So we'll go to the next slide here. And this is really important. I think Dennis just alluded to it. Leaders are a group that really gets the least feedback when really having the most impact. I was shocked in my days at Johnson & Johnson when I was a chief learning officer, and I would talk to the top leaders of the corporation. I thought, boy, these people have made it. They're successful. And there's so many of them really didn't know how they were doing. They said, how am I doing? Because they really, the higher up you go, the less feedback you get. And if you do get feedback, often it's not accurate feedback. It's more about a person kind of telling you what you want to hear rather than telling you something that is going to be helpful to you and your performance. So sometimes leaders get blindsided because they really don't know how they're doing. Go to the next one, Dennis. So applications these are just some of the applications of executive coaching. First, the new leader. The National Center for Creative Leadership did a survey several years ago, and actually McKinsey did another survey, and they both came out with the same results. 40 to 60% of new leaders fail in the first 3 years of a position, and what they found it was really about it was poor onboarding, lack of clarity what the job was about. What an adage I've used with many people, and they think it's spot on, is often people get into a job and they come in, they say, "We want you to make change," and they come in and they come gun ho and they move fast, and then people come back and say, "Well, wait a second, we wanted to change certain things, and we didn't want you to change other things." Of course, nobody ever told them that. But that's the point, is that very often getting the lay of the land and understanding how to enter an organization is a science in itself. And it's really critical. One of the things that's really applicable to nonprofits is a new boss and a board. So a CEO of an organization, of a nonprofit, is getting a new boss every 2 years and getting a new board members all the time. How does that leader acclimate to the new board? How do they make sure they make adjustments? How do they make sure that they are leading their board and helping them and getting input from them at the same time? Really making sure it's a two-way street. Organizational turnarounds, I think, is another issue here in terms of when you're having organizational turnarounds, it's a lonely job. And really having somebody that you can bounce ideas off of and help you is really important. And that really leads into the whole area of transformation as well. Is really important in terms of really having someone to assist you. Skill development. Sometimes there's a leader. One of the presidents I worked with, one of the things his boss told me is his organizational presence. So the way he communicated to the corporation needed to improve, and working with that person on it, you're able to focus on that skill in terms of how do you do that and how do you be effective at it. And then someone just to talk to. I've had a number of people that I've worked with over time, and great lengths of time, where they just needed someone to bounce ideas off of, to talk to. Again, that's going to give them accurate feedback. And a coach is able to really give a feedback, again, if they have the relevant experience and expertise, to really say, hey, that makes sense or that doesn't make sense, and ask the right kind of questions to help the leader be successful. The other thing that's important is sometimes, and this is where it's a failure, is sometimes people have used it as like a last step in terms of saying, okay, we'll do executive coaching at the last step. And it's not outplacement. I think it's really a developmental process, and a developmental process that says, I really believe in this individual and I want to really invest in that individual. So going on to the next one.
I think it's this one.
So here's some success stories I'll tell you about. A new COO. I work with a couple of CEOs, and one of the things I found about COOs, it's a very difficult job being the number two in an organization. And how do you have that right balance of making sure that you are providing value and being loyal and supporting the mission and objectives of your CEO? So really having that balance is important. I always kid about this, is that with a COO, and by the way, there's a lot of studies of this that it's really fascinating. If you think about, vice presidents in the United States and presidents, typically very few times do the president and vice president after the term not hate each other, because they have this bad relationship. And I really do think so often it's the lack of clarity, particularly for the COO or the vice president, in terms of what their jobs are. Another success story, attorneys who want to be partners. So I have an attorney that I work with in a major law firm and really desperately wanted to be a partner. And he was a great lawyer, but had to recognize that being a great lawyer is really important, but not enough. in terms of when you go to the next level and how to have necessarily have the skills. And very happy to say that the individual I'm talking about is a partner now and is one of the is really successful and doing well and understands that balance. The nonprofit CEO, in terms of really working with them again. I have several stories of working with nonprofit CEOs that were having a tough time. One was having a tough time because of a new board and new board members and different expectations, and they'd been in the job a long time and had to adapt and listen and work with the person. And I think it really valued the organization as well. Company presidents. I worked with a company president who was his company was acquired, and he worked for a corporation. So it was really that balance about being, how do you be an effective company president and a good corporate citizen? And lastly here, and there's many more stories, and this is about a physician who was in private practice, and now their practice was acquired by a major healthcare system. And really, how do you now continue to be a great physician and really also be a member of the health system? And how do you participate that way? And how do you be that balance? So much of this is, if you really think about it, about these success stories and things I'm talking about, really have to do with the whole idea of change. And how do people deal with change? And how do they are able to be successful? And these are so often are turning points for people. And the objective of an executive coach is really to help a person be successful and succeed. So these are just some stories, and I have many others that are just really interesting stories of people that have really been successful. So we go on the next one. So before we go into Dennis, any questions you have about the use of executive coaching, any experiences you've had about executive coaching, even a top line of about a situation or a challenge somebody is facing or yourself is facing. So let's stop here and please, if you can enter in, on the go ahead, Dennis.
No, yeah. Anybody, Deb? Anybody else has a question? Frank, anybody else? Put it in the chat box. We'll talk about it a little bit. If you have a question, it's we'll just, so over here, just go to the chat box. If you have any questions at all, comments, concerns about executive coaching, anything you have, you are talking today with, in my opinion, one of the best executive coaches in the land. That's how good he is, and I don't say that lightly. I think it's fine, Alan. But
yeah. So let me just summarize here in terms of. So I really think it can be a very, very beneficial process for an organization. The other thing, and Dennis is going to talk about this a little bit as he talks into effective tools, is group coaching sometimes, and I think it really does apply as Dennis starts talking about boards and doing assessment tools and using those as fundamentals. Fundamentals in how do you get a team to work effectively together, and I think that's very valuable.
I'm sorry, but one of the things that I think I see there's a question coming in now. Let's see what we got here.
No.
Go ahead. Let's see what we got here. Why am I not seeing it jump? Go ahead. Okay. Deb believes stronger exec coaching. Deb, do you have any other experience from your corporate background? Anything about the benefits or what you see?
Yeah, I really completely agree with you and Alan on the use of executive coaching in appropriate situations. I was also in HR, and we used a tremendous number of executive coaches for our team members, for our high potential individuals, as a way of investing in them in the future. I've done some executive coaching on a much less level than you've both done, but I've done that too. So I really believe in its value.
it really does. That you're right. The word value. Um, one of the things that Alan and I find is the following here that we ask, our goal here is to help organizations reach its potential. It's that's all it is, really. That's all it is. Okay. And it's a way of sort of giving back to, what Alan and I, so myself, 40 years of experience as an executive. We enjoy this work. One of the things that Alan and I and members of our team find is this, and Deb and others, please join in to see if you feel the same way. We always ask people, do you have a strategic plan? And most people say yes, or they did one 3 years ago, or it's working well, or it's sitting on a shelf collecting dust. And do they have a plan for financing their budget and their plan? And do they have any plan for development for donors and dollars? And some do, some don't. We help with that. One of the things I find out that's the most important investment that people can make is the idea of a leadership development program that is all about executive coaching. And what that means is this. We want to help an organization develop or understand its vision. We all know about mission. It's a purpose, why you exist. What's your purpose? Vision is about where you're headed. What's a future direction that makes your organization more strong, more desirable than today? And the thing is, and you can ask us about the organization you work on the board, or other organizations that we have worked with around the country, is everybody in the organization aligned to achieve your vision? And usually the answer is no. People, finance does one thing, development, raising does another, CEO another, but it was all over the map. Other people, and even the board, everybody aligned on the same page to achieve the vision. And we provide a program to help with that and with executive coaching. So I don't know anybody, and myself, I got tons of coaching, and it's just vital. And that's Alan, that's my thoughts about it. It was vital to have that.
Dennis, you remind me of something that's interesting. So I currently work with a organization. It's a pharmaceutical company, and we worked on how to develop a more effective team. And I'm not a big believer of the team building where you sit in a room and people lean back and you hold them and you say you say how much you trust them or don't trust them and all those things. It's more important about doing great work with one another. And that's really important. And that's how you build a team. And Dennis talks about alignment and really great work that is aligned to achieving success, because everybody loves to be part of a team. And I think it's very exciting. But one of the things we do in something like that is we build an accountability statement by each individual. And it's really interesting as we develop these accountability statements, getting people to see what they really do has more of an impact, as Dennis just mentioned, not about, they do their finance job and so forth, but are they all working towards achieving a common objective for the organization? And it's amazing what organizations can achieve when they are all working on that. And it really starts with the leader creating that kind of environment where people are working together in terms of achieving the same common kinds of goals. So Dennis, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to talk about board and leadership assessments and evaluations. Most board members, if you bring up the word board assessment, want to have a heart attack. They want to say, "Are you kidding me? I'm joining this board. I volunteer to come to the meetings. I make an annual contribution. My spouse and I go to the gala, and you want to assess me?" But I do want to talk about the importance of evaluations for both the board and the leadership team. I think they're vital, and that's where I'm going next with this here. So it's just starting with the board's CEO leadership, but the key today is this is not like to try to find, I got you, finding what you're not doing right. This is about trying to identify your strengths. And that's important in today's days because we need our strengths and we help you identify your strengths compared to national practice. So that's important. We just talked briefly about alignment. I mean, improving performance. So everybody's on the same page towards alignment is very and really important here. And it goes just to boosting continual performance. So really the idea of, board performance is just, it is, I don't know if anything could be more vital. It's just really, really, really very important. Okay. It enhances accountability and trust. Building trust is probably crucial. It might be the most important thing on the board is begin to trust each other, trust the executive team, managing accountability. I mean, it's all, it's just a very important thing to find about what can we do better, where are we good at, and the thing about assessment evaluations, the beneficiary are the people you serve in your organization. They're the benefit of the people you serve. So all the things we do all around the country, right? I mean, in the nonprofit space, which is 100% of what we do, whether it's affordable housing, food insecurity, mental health, disability services, a whole range of stuff. Helping, it's not about finding the thing wrong. It's not about that at all. It's the opposite. It's really about, strengthening your organization. That's kind of, where that's at. Certainly you want to help with strengthening future effectiveness. I mean, we talk a lot about and look outside maybe the scope here, but for those, we talk about the stages of governance. You all know about the founding stage. Someone founded Family Promise. Someone founded Make-A-Wish. I've done work with the founder. I know Make-A-Wish well, but someone founded the organization. And you move on to fiduciary responsibility, move on to becoming a, really help strategically, improving their strategic plan and finances. But how about the idea of, really developing needs of the board and becoming a partner with the CEO, being in partnership, being involved with future planning is just absolutely crucial. Here's something for everybody. Does your organization have a vision? And a vision to us and to me and Alan and those on our team is this. A vision is a future direction for your organization that is more desirable, more successful than the president. That's tough to define. A vision is a future direction, not something about today, a future direction that's more desirable, more successful today, that will inspire enthusiasm, encourage commitment. You certainly want it to be credible, you want it to be realistic, you want it to be attractive, and you want it to be ambitious. And so in the assessment process here, you want to find out everything you can about helping you develop your needs to become the more successful as you can, and people enjoy that. And it certainly boosts engagement.
Dennis, I just want to reinforce that last piece there. I think it is so critical in terms of boosting engagement, because I think that members of boards, nonprofit boards, want to be involved in something where they participate and they are impacting the greater good. And too often, people have meetings where it's one-sided. Everybody's telling you how great they are and so forth, and they leave and they say, "Okay, I've done that," and then at the end of their term, they're over, and that's it. And I think it's really valuable to really have an engaged board that helps, not running the operation, but participating and helping and helping the leaders succeed. And I think that's a great environment when you have it. And but there's too often the boards are like one-way conversations or over managed by the participants. And I think it's that proper balance where organizations and teams can be really, really cooking and helping the organization achieve great results.
I add to that, and I think it's also sort of assessing the board's performance helps the CEO. All of you that are on this webinar presentation today, we appreciate you all being here. But there's whatever it's 1.5 million nonprofits around the country that have wonderful people join their boards, like all of you participating today. But there's very little really board training that takes place around the country. There is, if you are on the Board of Education, usually in some states you have to get trained. And so you come into the nonprofit board meeting and you just listen because you're not sure what you're going to do. You have some sense of what being on the board means. And so when you have the opportunity to evaluate board performance, it's something that you should almost openly accept. And I think that's kind of where we're coming from, if that makes sense. I'm going to talk about leadership evaluations now. This is very similar here, but obviously it's really important for the board, certainly, to make sure there's an evaluation process for the CEO, or whether you call it executive director. We're leaning toward more CEO titles than executive director titles. We think, and by the way, our firm offers, go on our website under our DCM Center for Governance and Leadership. We have all these tools: CEO evaluation tool, CEO self-evaluation tool, board assessment tools, leadership assessment tool, and on it. And what it does, it helps a leader build his or her success, identifies not just their strengths, but identifies areas for improvement based upon what national best practices might be. And that is really crucially important to talk about what best practice there may be here. In today's world of executive nonprofit leadership, the skills and competencies that once were important, and they're still important, but being passionate and advocate for your mission, of course, that always will continue. Being a grant writer for developing programs and being good in the community relationship, that's fine. But CEOs, executive directors need to become more than that today. They need to become executive leaders. They need to have visionary thinking. As many of you know, it used to be the board set the vision and the executive director title just come in and implement it. Today, the CEO is setting the vision with the board in collaboration. And I think that's really, really, Alan, really important for people, to take into effect here, is that you want to develop into becoming a very competent executive. You want to be able to learn about the ability to collaborate with others and other organizations, building relationships inside an organization. So all this stuff that Alan provides with coaching and we provide about leadership evaluations are crucial. And when the board does a CEO evaluation, we have a self-evaluation. So you sit down and say, we had you a little bit higher than you have here. I'm going to take this question here. And then are there tools for evaluate free to access? Our tools are not free, but they're extremely affordable, and we'll go over that for you at a free virtual conference call. But we have tools that are on our website. You can see them all on DennisCMiller.com. Go on to resources and go on to the DCM Center for Governance, and you see assessments and evaluations. We have them for the CEO, we have them for the board, we have them for the leadership team, we have them for board trade associations. But the one thing that we have a tool of, which no one has, it's impressive, I have to say, admit myself. We have a tool to evaluate the leadership team and the board at the same time, and you can see the results parallel together, like in a pie chart. And you want to get everybody on the same page. That's really vital. But it's very, they're not, you can check around. They're not very expensive. In our case, our evaluation tools started, they're at $1,800. They're at $1,800. Let me get rid of this here. They're at $1,800. But They come with a self-evaluation, a written report, a virtual consultation report to the board leadership. We recommend you can use a 360 tool as well, which we'll usually throw in. We also will provide, a month free of coaching to the CO or the board if they need it. And we provide to you, whether it's a board assessment or leadership assessment, one of our free, give you an online course about how to become a high performing board or high performing leadership team. And so, and we'll announce this, but we're gonna give everybody a 20% discount anyway who's signed up for the webinar. And so you're talking about, about $400 off. And again, so if we give you $400 off, it's $1,400 worth to have a great tool to evaluate your CEO or great tool with your board. The whole point is here, the whole purpose of today is to show board members and CEOs that there are valuable tools available to them. Hopefully, you'll explore us. There are others. I don't know if anybody else has the leadership talent we have in terms of experience. With Alan and myself, bring a lot to the table, being a board chair of a number of organizations and nonprofits and being a CEO. It becomes invaluable. And my dedication for the last 20 years, I've dedicated my life nothing but nonprofit organizations. So really, that's some of the things that it kind of builds here. Let's see. Okay. Some of the benefits of what we talked about here. You want to align leadership with mission. You want to align your leadership with your vision. And I'm going to repeat it again about how we define vision. Mission is easy. Mission is what's your purpose? Why do you exist? It's easy. Everybody gets that. Why do you exist? What's your purpose? Vision is different. Vision is your future direction that should really be inspiring you. It just says, now think about it, whether it's your organization today, organization tomorrow, but there's so many nonprofits. What is your future direction that is more desirable, more successful than today? And the most important thing is not only that, but how will you measure your success? Certainly ensures accountability. It's really important to do that. Evaluation and assessments, fosters professional development, strengthens the board CEO partnerships. It's vital today that the board not just be all in favor, say, I come in and approve things and leave. That's not going to help you much. You want your board and CEO to find a true partnership. That's really important to all of us. What we message and say, partnership. It minimizes risk. When you do evaluation assessment, you might see things. You might see something, like learn something that we didn't realize. And I'll give you an example or two. It certainly helps making informed decisions making. When a board evaluates their CEO and then gets a CEO self-evaluation, and the board wants to then sit down with the CEO and go over the evaluation, you're both evaluating, you're providing a summary of what you perceive as the board, which is important, and then what the CEO perceives himself, and then makes them, but that's fine. You might think, you've hit all these markets, but on the other side of the house, we asked you to do a couple things you didn't do. And then, but have the conversation. I think Alan would agree that's kind of a, sort of a vital thing here. So those are some of the key benefits there. Again, our tools, and it's confidential. So we do our tool for you. You're going to get a lot of information, but they're all confidential. There's no way of knowing the names and protect that kind of stuff. So we have all those tools here. Best practice for evaluations. Really to be effective. If you talk about the CEO evaluation, the entire board should be involved in a process, not just the executive team, not just the board chair. The entire board should be involved in evaluating the CEO. Entire board. Now, in our case here, we're evaluating a lot of things here, and you can see what we're evaluating, everything from mission, vision, culture, and values to how you're doing strategically, planning, strategic goals, a board CEO partnership, collaboration, um, branding, how well you are branding yourself as an organization, and really a lot. And then how do you, in the world of philanthropy, how are you doing? So there's a ton of obviously things that we help you evaluate. There's a ton of things that we can help you to learn about. And I think it's important here. Alan, do you want to make just jump in here for a second? Any comments you want to make here about this one?
About this one, yeah. So I think evaluations or assessments are a very critical thing, and really having a rhythm of them, doing them periodically is a really important thing. So it's not just a one-off item. You can start seeing whether or not you are making any difference, or you're making any changes, or are you continuously looking, have the dynamics changed? I think it's really a critical thing for boards to do it. And what you're doing essentially is a board is and your team is holding yourselves accountable, which I think is a really a great thing to do.
Yeah, and one of the tools that Alan brought up, but one of the tools that we were big proponents of is a 360 tool. And for those of you that may not know what the 360 tool is, it's just simple as this, is that, and I'm going to use the example again of an executive director. He or she could have 6, maybe 8, but 6 to 8 people reporting to him or her. And then you got a board of, say, 12 or 15, maybe 18, whatever your board size is. And the 360 allows the board to get information about for those that report to the CEO. So, I'm making this up here, but so what if you think the CEO is doing fabulous? Is that you see him once or twice a month? But on the 360, you find out the people who report to him don't feel that he or she is a good listener. Don't feel that he or she is a good communicator. Well, that's vital to get to help someone become a better executive. And so we think it's important to get all types of evaluation here. And I always say this. Good boards evaluate their executive director. Great boards evaluate themselves. And so whether you're looking to just evaluate your CEO or have the CEO evaluate his or her team, we have those are tools that do that. We have a tool for the board to evaluate their performance. Again, best practices. And it's not about we gotcha. It's not a gotcha. And it's about what you can do better here. So those are some of the things. I think certainly, Alan, I would say evaluation should not be a surprise. Everybody should be, have those evaluations annually, but certainly on a regular dialogue, how people are doing, document things. I think that's really important. And I'm going to take some questions right now. But listen, Alan, you're going to jump in on this. And we've got a few more minutes here, but wanted to see you at the end. We have any questions at all? Alan, go to this slide and take it there.
So really, in terms of a typical coaching engagement, let me just describe that. Typically is an introductory session, and very often it's the boss and the individual to really get alignment in terms of making sure there's support in terms of the process. Because what's so critical about coaching is when the coach leaves, you really needs to be organizational support, that there's continuing the feedback and continuing development. So this is, is really important. Use of 360, as I mentioned, is really, really valuable to understand really the perceptions that people have. Development of action plans. And one of the things I recommend always is no more than 2 or 3 action plans to really work on. Because what I really feel is when you make improvements to 2 or 3, it really has a carryover effect on everything else. 12 to 24 hours of coaching, action plans, and over 3 to 6 months. And really, the idea is so often is spend maybe 60, 90 minutes every week or every 2 weeks, have the person have the opportunity to apply it on work, come back and do more coaching. So it's really this idea of doing coaching and on-the-job experience that combined really give a blended approach that's very effective. action plans being implemented, periodic meetings with the sponsor, i.e., the person that was in the introductory session, a final meeting. Also, one of the great things about coaching, one of the things that happened that was actually a positive thing during the pandemic is so many things couldn't be done in person, and so many of these things can be done via Zoom. And I have coached I have clients in Germany and Switzerland, and the only issue is the time, but we do it on Zoom, and it really is effective. And it really not only saves time, is more efficient. It really does save cost in terms of being able to do this efficiently and effectively, because obviously you don't have the travel costs that are involved. So I think there's a great opportunity, but it really does work. And one of the things that's so gratifying to me is so often when we have the final meeting. I had one client that his boss in the last session said, I think the guy's name was, the individual I was coaching was Tom. And they say, I see Tom there, but this is a different Tom. And then he spoke about all the positive things that Tom has done. And now Tom is a company president, and very exciting. And but it really is a transformation. It can really be a transformational process. So we'll go to the next one here. So one of the things we invite you to do, every organization has very different needs. We would love to have the opportunity, Dennis and I would love to have a 30-minute opportunity to talk to you about what your needs are, whether or not it's on the board, whether or not it's on leadership coaching, or any developmental need. I'm sure we could help you. And I'll tell you what, even if you say, gee, I don't know that we can afford to do that right now, that's fine. Why don't we have a conversation and talk? At least we can give you some ideas that will be helpful to you, because what we believe in is really having long-term relationships, not just trying to sell you a product, but really helping you be successful. Because as Dennis mentioned at the beginning of this process, we're in this because of helping organizations be successful. And particularly in the nonprofit space, you all have great missions, and what we want to do is help you succeed in achieving your mission. So thank you very much. And Dennis, do you want to?
Yeah, I agree with Alan. It's our way of giving back. We've had successful careers, successful lives, and it's our way of giving back here. I encourage you to go on to our website and see all the responses and video testimonies and that kind of thing. See the tools, learn about this. Our stuff is beyond affordable. You don't have to be a member. We have other things we're working on. But again, our focus is on helping you. We do have another webinar. This was the third of the 4-part webinar series. And on December 3rd, there'll be another webinar that I'll be doing about how to create a highly engaged, motivated, collaborative board. We'll talk about that. And we really just right now we're going to ask you to we'll reach out to you probably after Thanksgiving. Reach out to you to try to schedule a meeting with you virtually, and not a problem, Frank. It's good. And but we're here to help, and that's where we are. So we thank you for today. I don't know, Deb or Sonoma, do you have any questions of us? Do you think there's anything else we could answer right now today for you, Deb or Ms. McKinney?
No, I'm good.
Okay, wonderful.
All right. So wait, but it's Deb T. I would like to take advantage of both of your thinking and experience. Just a couple quick questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'd love to just hear a little bit about what, if any, differences you found in coaching leaders in nonprofit versus for-profit organizations.
Great question. Thank you for that.
I'm gonna let Alan go, though I could talk forever about it, but the answer is Alan. It's a great question, by the way. A great question. I'm gonna let Alan go first.
So one of the things that's different, obviously, is the relationship with the board, and really how to engage the board and how to participate. and the specific issue of fundraising, I think, and also the government interaction so much in terms of it. But a lot of it, believe it or not, is the same. You know, you've heard
Yeah.
the comments about no mission, no margin, no mission. So there
Right.
really is a financial aspect of all of it, and I think one of the balances people, you know, it's interesting. I've coached people that came for profit going into nonprofit, and sometimes I have had people in for profit think all I have to do is teach them all in nonprofits how to operate.
Yes.
And that's not right. And it's right. I mean, it's a real problem when they do that. But the real reality, the real truth is each side of that spectrum really have a lot to learn from one another.
All right.
And how do you balance the both? So, for example, if you bring someone in, you know, about having sound financial practices is really important, regardless of where you are. Understanding the difference between profit and then also, you know, and the for-profit versus the nonprofit, where it's really about having enough to be able to invest in your mission. So
Right.
there's so many different contexts of all that, I think, that are really, really critical. And really what I try to do, and I think it's important to do, and I know Dennis does as well, is we try to pick the best of both worlds to really balance that knowledge so people can have that expertise, which I think you'll find valuable. Hope that helps.
Thanks, Alan. Let me add my perspective for you too. I've been a corporate executive, and I've been a chair of nonprofits, and I've been a CEO. Hospital is a nonprofit organization. And as I was flying back yesterday from my being a keynote speaker at a conference at the Prudential Center, and so next to me was a guy strictly involved in investments, graduate from Stanford. We had a great conversation. In a corporate world, my experience was that the focus was on the stock price. It was to find how were we doing, how were investors viewing us? That was the outcome. What is the stock price? And I remember thinking to myself, I walk into the office every day and I see the stock price listed. So my goal here was solely really to increase the stock price and get everybody aligned with that. That's the job. Because why? We got investors, people investing in our company. And I was successful with it, but that's one thing. And even in that world, it was like, well, what's the impact we're having? In the nonprofit space, there's a lot of similarities because as Al mentioned, in the first book I wrote, I have 4 sections about the guide to achieving new heights, the 4 pillars of nonprofit leadership. The 4th pillar was business minded, and nonprofit was your tax status, not your business plan. And you have to in the nonprofit space. I don't even like the word nonprofit. So in a nonprofit world, you're focusing on the impact you're having with the people you serve. And we need to talk as a collective entity around the country more about what is the impact we're having of what we serve. What is our organization? What's our impact? We'll get into the next webinar, but that's important. So the differences from my world is that in the nonprofit space, the CEO, executive should be focused on the impact they're having in the community they serve. And in the corporate world, should be focusing on what the value is based upon the stock price. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. Yes, very much. I thank you both for.
Yeah,
for
and
your
I just
responses.
had both of them. And between you and me, I spent 7 years in the corporate world, and as an executive, I spent 3 more years with another big company, but I wasn't the boss. And I just find that everybody, though, the key for everybody, but key for everybody is a fun. What's your value? What impact you're having? I think that's just people don't do it. And
You know, one of the things I work with a lot of times on nonprofit leaders is how to bring a board along with them. about
Yes.
telling their story and getting people engaged and understanding and appreciation, because I think there's an art to it. I had the privilege of working with the CEO at Atlantic Health, and he did a fabulous job of being able to tell a story so that people were able to look at it in context, because he had a combination of physicians, a combination of business people, people from the nonprofit sector were, and his point was he needed to really make sure that he got everybody together with a common understanding so that they were able to deal with the issues that they needed to deal with. And that's a real great technique that I've learned from what I learned from him, and I've used
Right.
a lot of people, and it really works well when you're able to do that successfully.
Right. Oh, I could see that. I could see that as, an ongoing challenge. And now in my limited experience with the board, I mean, that's one of the things we've been thinking a lot about is how do you engage the board members, ensure everybody's aligned? I mean, all the things that you've just shared with us today, ensure we're aligned and we're willing to support and act to help
Yeah,
the organization achieve its mission. And that's so important. And those are some of the questions that we're kind of wrestling with is how can we do that better?
yeah, and it's a really great point, and it's really about getting people all connected to your overall objectives.
Hmm.
I'm gonna add something to you, outside the scope of maybe this webinar, but certainly what I'm gonna do in 2 weeks about the board. But here's what I tell people, and I'm gonna just tell you this, so. I had a CEO say to me, this is probably 15 years ago, I just can't seem to engage my board. So I said, okay, that's fine. I mean, if you told me you had a cold and flu when I was a physician, I would deal with it. No problem. I had 12 women, invited to speak to all 12. I'll never forget this, Alan. It just was, you can't forget the things. And I talked to 4 board members. These are pretty prominent people. And 4 members of the board said to me, if I miss a meeting, I feel like I didn't miss anything. Hear what he said?
Mm. Oh, that's oh, goes
Is that,
right to your heart.
okay, wait. So here's what. Alan, I asked if I could observe, come to observe a board meeting because they were hiring me to help them do this. And I went into the big auditorium that they had, which is the boardroom. And the wonderful, fabulous board chair said, I want to call the meeting to order, get approval of the minutes at the last minute, all in favor, say, oh, well. The CEO gave a report, but he read it. He sent out a report with the board minutes and everything else in the agenda to approve it, the board presentation. But he read exactly what he sent out word for word, and versus, okay, so you've got my package, you see my updates, but I want to just 2 more things happen. We did this, we did that, whatever thing. Okay. The meeting was forwarded to the CFO, and the woman, she was fabulous. She was excellent, CFO, wonderful. So that was fine. Board, any questions? No. Board asked, is there any next? Okay, so it came up and it was the board talked about a little bit about programs, but about construction, so I'm doing some renovations. Any questions from the update facility report? No. They were having a big gala, 100th anniversary gala back then. And was update from the bat. Any questions? No. Then the board member said, okay, meeting's adjourned. I'll see you in 3 months. And it just, boom, hit me. So here's one of the ways that I think you can engage and motivate your board. I call it the 50% rule. It's definitely in my books, but
Okay.
I'll get it to you. So the 50% rule is this, and this is what I recommend, and you do it any way you want. 50% of half your board members you spend on your committee work, because it's important for your committee to do the work of finance, facilities, programs, whatever it's planned, the development office. But have a question pre-arranged like this that a board chair would initiate. So something like this. Okay, so thank you for all the reports. Today we're going to have a conversation. What's the impact we're having in the community? Or how do we measure our success? And make sure that every board member has a chance to speak. And as you know quite well, there are always two board members that don't shut up, and there's two board members that won't ever say anything.
Yes.
And the idea is make sure the board chair, him or herself, say, John, so what do you think, John? Yeah, come on, what do you think about how do we measure impact? And then say something like, oh, we know we measure our impact by we do our CO evaluation. Okay, but how's the organization measure impact? And then how do we as a board measure impact? So here's the next question. Next month, what's our image in the community? How do people see us? What do they think about us? And have the same. Can people distinguish us from others?
Right.
Are we?
You know, I tell you a really, if you got 2 more minutes, I'll tell you a real quick story. I'm on the board of Union County College, and the president of the college talks about this. She came in, and when she came in as a new president, they told her everything was going great, just don't have to change anything. And she went to a program, and they really of other presidents, and really what they talked about is that graduation rates were the most important thing in terms of being able to go to a 4-year school and also to have success in life, to get out of, being low income and so forth. They have a great nursing program. So graduating was great. So she learned that, and she kept on inquiring about what the heck's the graduation rates at the college. And the more and more she found out it was 7%.
Wow.
And
Wow.
she changed everything, and she got everybody in alignment with the fact that they had to achieve, they had to improve the rates. Today, there's a lot of things she did, but she got alignment and everybody, and they are now at 35, and it's a top 10. They're rated a top 10 county college in the country now. And her new objective, she asked them at the meeting, what should their objective is. There is a possible objective. They said, yes, 70%. So her new objective is 70%.
70. Nice.
And the point is, everybody is aligned.
You're right.
Whether or not you're a member of the staff there, boy, what she had to go through with the professors and so forth, who, thought she was like, killing education. But what she did with the staff and the board is so committed to helping achieve 70%. So getting everybody on that common goal is such a common relevant goal that is so important. Not just activity. Too often organizations talk about activity, what I call a nice try. It's like, what do we do?
I like that.
We talk about an activity trophy, like participation trophy. It's not about that. It's about what we want to do is achieve results for the people we serve, and what has been done and the transformation. And I go to graduation every year, and it is the most gratifying thing that I've ever seen. In terms of, you see people that are first generation family members going to college and succeeding, and going to like Ivy League schools after this. But the point being is, when you get people focused on the overall objective and committed to the objective, and it's a good objective, a positive objective, it can be so engaging and so exciting for people. And you clearly understand people who are committed to it and people that are not. And very often they manage themselves in terms of what do they want to do in the future.
All right. I love that. That's just a great example of like asking the right questions and not settling until you get some of that, and then going for data that makes a difference. I mean,
that's right. That's really well said.
Yeah, that's exciting. And Dennis, you too. I know you all have to leave, and so thank you for sharing that, because I love what you did share around just making me think about, are we asking the critical questions of ourselves, the CEO, the organization. Are we asking those really critical questions that can make a difference?
Right.
And not that it's not easy. It's not easy.
And measurement shouldn't be about trying to show how wonderful you are.
Exactly.
Measurement should be about what is the opportunity for the organization.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Instead of feeling like, okay, this 7% it's a failure, but it's a way of looking at the opportunity. I love the way you
Yes,
put
and saying, you know what,
Yeah.
there's so much more we have the opportunity to do. And
Mhm.
and by the way, and then what people started doing is changing things. They changed
Right.
the way they coached. They counseled students. They analyzed where students were failing, and they made a strong commitment saying we're not going to reduce the requirements. I mean, because that's an easy way out. But rather, they really analyzed and clearly understood what they needed to do to make sure that students were successful.
Right. And obviously created some kind of culture within that organization because now they raised the bar even further.
Yes, and you know what? I'll tell you one quick thing about culture, because I can talk forever about these things.
Obviously, we all can, right?
You can't
Yeah.
change culture, but if you change enough things that are in alignment, you change the culture. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Oh, totally. It's so funny. I used to love the quote, and I don't know who said it now. I don't think anybody really knew that culture is the shadow of a leader.
Yeah.
yeah.
That was one of my
So Deb,
favorites.
listen, it's been years, but Joe, I worked with your board previously.
Yes.
I think you are a superstar. I think the questions you're asking are exactly the question you have to ask, which comes down to this. What's our purpose? What's our impact? What are we trying to do?
Mm-hmm.
And not get caught up in so many off-site topics that don't relate to our mission or vision. And understand, and here's something I said, it's amazing. Every board meeting, at least every other one, should have some type of indicator, are you making progress towards your vision?
Right.
And I used to have this, even in my strategic planning process. I'm sure you've heard, the red light, green light, and yellow light.
Yes.
If there's 5 or 6 key goals that you're focusing on to the strategic plan, if you're doing well with governance, then make it a green light. You don't have to talk about it.
Right.
If you're doing, program development, and that's you're not getting anywhere for some reason, put a red light next to it.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever else you're doing, philanthropy, branding, building, put another red light next to it, yellow or whatever. But have some way of measuring. Otherwise, you're just getting around and you're talking about today and all the problems you have today, but you're not solving anything. And at the end of the day, in your case, there's a reason why there's family promise.
Yes, there is. And that reason's getting larger.
It's massively done, massive.
Yeah.
And so I'd be happy to talk to you with Alan, or anyone who just talk to Alan, talk to me. We'll reach out to you and Joanne. And I do this. It's just going to sound self-serving, not my intent. But I have my 2 recent books, and I tell people of Mrs. Fritz, my 7th grade English teacher, knew I wrote 2 sentences grammatically correct. If she knew I wrote 7 books, my last book was called The Importance of Nonprofit Board Leadership, a guide to creating a highly successful board. That's a really good book. Then my new book is just out. It's out as a paperback. It's called What Every Nonprofit CEO Needs to Know, a guide to achieving your organization's true potential. And there's 5 factors.
Right.
It's engaged, motivated vision, but you need measuring. This is about contemporary competencies and leadership. There's about an engaged, motivated, but trained board. It's about building your brand and differentiate yourself from others, and about creating a culture plan. So we're able to help you get from where you are to the next level, and our fees are beyond affordable. So that's what we're. So I thank you for today.
That's great.
Any other questions? I'm happy to answer any questions.
No, thank you. Thank you both. I don't know if anybody's still on. I'm not.
No, I think they're off, but we
I'm sorry.
we-
So now we're having a private.
we had about
It's
30.
okay.
We have a lot of people signed up that get our message, but we thank you for doing this. And say hello to Joanne. I was happy to be in New Jersey and see my friends. It was a great experience. And then we'll go from here. We'll be in touch.